YouTube? Miss Covered in Paint here with another episode of Critique Me Not. Here's this hilarious drawing that looks like this guy from the Goonies. Yeah, no, I'm not quite sure what happened here. The hands and the face, they're like humongous, and this neck, it's like a tree stump, and I'm just not quite sure what happened. I don't know if I just gave up and was like, I'm just gonna make this ugly or whatnot, but let's go over some things here. The human body here, the average human, is 7 heads tall. So here I'm going to break this down for you. Look, let's count. So we've got our heads repeating here, coming down on this human body that I sketched out. This is called a stick figure. And it's 7.5. Ta-da! And your hand is about the size of your face, okay? And this is important if you want to draw an average human being. But you see, in cartooning, we like to exaggerate things. So these rules, this average human, doesn't really apply unless you want it to look like a realistic average human being. So after you get this down and you understand how to draw the average human, you can make things exaggerated, like chibi. Chibi means small in Japanese, and it's also a style that's used commonly in the cartooning world. And so here's a 2 heads tall chibi. Okay, see, the anatomy is exaggerated to make it look cute. We think things with big eyes and big heads are cute, okay? I don't know why, but they are. So know that. And you can stretch it a little bit if you want it to have less of a tiny cute thing. So here I'm going to use 3 heads, and we're going to draw another chibi, and it's going to be similar, but it's going to look more dynamic. Like its body can move a little bit more without having to exaggerate and make it tiny and be like, I can't see the silhouette because it's so tiny. This picture I drew in high school, and yeah, it's not cute. I had a hard time with making things cute. So chibi equals cute, and if it's cute, you will make this face and you will go, oh, it's so cute, and you will find that hearts are spawning out of your head and that you just feel like it's adorable and you want to look at it forever. If you don't feel that way, you failed, and it's no longer chibi and it's not cute. It's just a monster like I drew earlier. So let's start from the beginning here. First off, I'm going to draw my heads so that I know for sure that I'm not elongating the body. See, my problem was at that time in high school I was learning that normal anatomy, and so as I struggled, it made it difficult for me to like exaggerate. I definitely encourage people though, like if you're learning anime, it's cool to learn how to draw chibi and stuff, but definitely take the time to learn actual anatomy. It will help, even though you kind of go through this awkward puberty stage where your art is just an in-between of realistic and exaggerated mess. So here I have the stick figure, and I'm drawing on top of it, and you'll notice I drew the eyes lower than the average head height. Usually our eyes are halfway on our head, but when you draw chibi, it's really cute to put the eyes down a little bit lower, bigger forehead kind of. I'm looking at the hair, and I'm trying to give it more of a typical, you know, anime girl, stereotypical. This is very stereotypical drawing. Anyway, so yeah, this girl is actually a character I made up in high school. So I will tell you a bit about her as we go over filling out her basic form and stuff. So anyway, this is Brenda, and she is a flag bag. So most of you guys probably didn't do color guard or know what I'm talking about, but there's this awesome team at most high schools that joins the marching band called color guard, and their job is to add visual and color to the show. And they spin flags, they toss rifles and sabers, and it's a really fun activity. I really enjoyed it. But anyway, you have all this equipment you have to carry, and you get a flag bag usually if you have enough money, and you can just put all your flags and sabers and rifles in it. And when we were in high school, we had one guy on our team, and he was looking for a date for winter ball, and I had made a joke saying, why don't you just take your flag bag? And from that point on, we all named our flag bags, and they had like personified characters, and me being an artist had to draw them all. So Trevor's flag bag here is named Brenda, and she's really hyper energetic anime girl because that's what he was into, and she would be really enthusiastic and passionate about color guard and practice and doing stuff. Here you can see I'm giving her like this weird outfit that doesn't make sense, and that's kind of her character. So she's got like this mini skirt with one of those like kind of baggy t-shirts that are low cut, and then like a tank top underneath. And it wasn't in the original design, so I kind of embellished it based off of my old designs of her. Trevor back here is crying, and the reason he's crying, which isn't very clear in the original drawing, is because it's early in the morning, and Brenda's like, let's go to practice, and Trevor's like, no, I want to stay in bed. Trevor was notorious for showing up late to our 6:40 a.m. practices, which meant 5 a.m. 5:30 a.m. got up. And so yeah, Trevor was definitely lazy and liked to sleep in, and so having Brenda be super enthusiastic and excited about going to practice was kind of the joke. So here I'm trying to figure out how to draw a sleepy chibi, and in chibi exaggeration, it's kind of hard to draw certain expressions. They're kind of like emoji based, and so you don't really see the face. I don't know. I feel like you can fall back on these faces and not experience like the anatomy of like your cheeks and your mouth and your eyes moving. It's more about just fitting a stereotypical chibi pose. So yeah, they use a lot of expression signs to express what they can't with the simplification. So this little symbol that looks like a sun bubble popping is, I guess, the universal sign for I'm tired or hiccuping, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, you'll notice I also, like, you can draw chibis with really stumpy legs and arms, which I like, or you can draw them with like really dainty legs and arms, and that can be really fun to play around with. But remember, it has to be exaggerated and not normal. Nothing should be normal. So here I'm working on her big, crazy anime eyes, and my pen's really jittery, so I apologize for the bad line quality. It does that because of the system. My little computer can't handle it. But I'm gonna push through. A great way to fix this problem is to work really big and then scale it down. And it'll be so scaled down that people won't see that your hand was shaky, and they really don't care. So here I am trying to debate how I should proceed because my pen is super jittery and I can't make it. Like, if I use a nicer pen, it'll just be more laggy, and if I use the stereotypical pen, it'll be fine. So I'm gonna clean up some of these lines, and eventually you'll just see me, I'll just wing it. I'm like, I can't do this. So I'm giving her a really big mouth because she's talking, and she's like, hey, and like in a Strong Bad episode, they always have was like ridiculously small mouths and they're ridiculously large when they open. So that's a good standard to go by. Don't have like an in between. Make it one or the other. And I'm working in spot blacks, so I'm gonna add more line variation. I think usually for anime you color more, and you like the line work seems to be very thin and lack variation in a lot of styles, but that doesn't mean it has to be that way. So you'll see me here, I'm going to thicken up my lines and add more variation, and it'll make the black and white piece stand on its own. But if you draw it with really thin line work, it won't. I don't know, sometimes I feel like it looks good, I don't know, but for me it just never looks good if it doesn't have line variation, so I don't know, try it with that. So I'm adding these cool accessories to her to make her look super punk and anime. I don't know, fishnet back in high school was cool to have, and all the bangles, and if you draw like, or do it like a studded belt and like a string around your neck, then she's got this like pleated mini skirt, and fishnet stockings. Ugh, those studded belts are so much from high school. And then for shoes, I wasn't really sure what to put on there. But yeah, see, it's looking much better now without the purple underneath. I decided to give her like a stereotypical little like black shoe. I don't think people wear those anymore, but I gave them to her because they are simple and easy. And I wouldn't see her in heels because she's got to run. So I'm just cleaning up the line work now. And I'm going to go in, I think, and do the equipment. So here's the rifle, and I loved, like, every time we would go out with our rifles, people ask, like, are those real? Do they shoot? And it's like, no, it's bandaged and tape. Of course not. There's not even a trigger. And then here's the saber, and the hilt is really chunky. And I remember we used to have these really old plastic sabers that we used to call, like, Toys R Us sabers because they were white. And the hilt was just such thick plastic, it looked like something you would buy for a toddler, but then it was a sword, so obviously you wouldn't. If you look at sabers for color guard, you'll notice there's some really fancy ones with beautiful hilts, and those are really expensive, and we were not good enough to afford. We could afford it, but we weren't good enough to have them at the time, so we had these little toy sabers that we used that were really chunky and cute. And yeah, the rifles are bandaged with tape, and I just kind of gave some variation there. And then I've got her stockings being filled in. Or not. Okay, there we go. And I'm just trying to draw contour lines that show the shape of her leg and not just making it flat. And now we're going to go to work on her hair. So I gave her these like pigtails. They show movement, which is really great because I've got this like pose that's moving and then hair moving. It's all moving and it makes it interesting to look at. Sometimes chibis can get really stiff. I know when I was in high school drawing them, they got really stiff because I was just so focused on trying to figure out how to put the body that I was just distracted. It didn't come. And that's okay. It'll come later. But yeah, focus on anatomy and getting your proportions right, and then you can work on exaggerating and going crazy and stuff like that. It makes it easier. It's harder to exaggerate and only know how to exaggerate and then learn how to make everything right. So here we've got the flag, and it's flowing as she's running, and she's like, yeah, let's go. And Trevor's back here, and he's like, no, wait up, don't leave me. Yeah, that sound, that's definitely a sound he's making right now. And yeah, so I made his eyes just really heavy, and his hair is kind of curly, but it's not. It's gelled usually, so I had a hard time figuring out how to do that. But this is pretty much, I think, what Trevor wore like every day at school. Was like those cargo jeans or shorts with the pockets, and then like Vans, and then he's got his color guard gloves on, because if you were on weapon line, you needed those, let me tell you. Catching a saber is not fun. And then I added these little dots to kind of, I guess they're like tears, like building up in his eyes because he's so tired. He's like, no. And then there's that little symbol that is like a bubble popping. I don't know. It just makes it seem like he's expressing something. I'm not sure I know what it is that he's expressing, but I'm using it. Let me know if you know what that bubble thing means. I'm just going to say it means I'm tired. So here we're almost done. I'm just cleaning up. I decided to move her pigtail the other way because technically her hair would be flying back with the wind, but then she's leaning forward. And then I was like, you know, whatever. It can just flow both ways. I'm going to spot black her shoes and Trevor's shoes. And then I'm going to add shadows so that we can understand that Trevor's not just a tiny baby chasing after her, but he's farther back. Ta-da! Alright, so here's the finished piece. And I'm going to go and center it and add some black marks so that way I can keep the original size. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Anime is definitely a really popular style, and I encourage people to start with it, but I encourage you also to learn actual anatomy. And it's okay if your work turns out weird like this original piece here. And it's okay. You'll work through it, and in 12 years, you'll look like this. And you'll have anime that looks like anime, and it'll be fun. And yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this Miss Covered in Paint Critique Me Not episode. I hope to see you again next week. Bye!